Hello YouTube. I have just finished Final Fantasy XVI moments ago, and I have some unfortunate news. That game has one major problem. Before we get into that though, I want to talk about things I really enjoyed about the game, and also some things that I think could be improved. For starters, this game has god tier boss fights. Like, they're some of the coolest fights I have seen in any game in my life, let alone any Final Fantasy game. Between the music, the set pieces, all the different phases of the bosses, and how you fight them, with the little breaks in between at every like quarter health bar, it does the cool QTE. It's just so fun and so awesome just to see and play and watch. They absolutely nailed everything on that front. All the big important battles in the game either left me speechless or like in tears from how cool it was. Back when I was a kid, my oldest brother used to show me, he would play through the Final Fantasy games and record the FMVs from each of the games, and we would just rewatch them over and over. And it's crazy to me thinking back to those moments, thinking like how cool the graphics were and how realistic everything looked. And now fast forward to Final Fantasy 16, and it's like, I feel like we are finally at a point where you are playing those really cool cutscenes, and it is as good as it could ever be. Like, I don't want to spoil anything with this video, but just some of the boss fights are so cinematic, it just invokes like crazy nostalgia, and they knocked it out of the park. And yeah, I mean, what more is there to say? I'm sure most of you agree, and let me know your favorite boss fights in the comments if you finished the game or anything, because my god, they blew me out of the water. The soundtrack and the sound design overall was really well done as well, except for some of the character voices were like super inconsistent with their volume. Sometimes you could hear them perfectly, and other times like you're struggling to understand what anyone is saying because their voice is just so quiet. I don't know if that was a me thing, but it is something I suffered while playing the game.
And regarding your original concern, you need not fear for Torgal's health. Why, the beast has the appetite of a behemoth. Just this very morn, I found him with his nose buried in my nuts.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
The soundtrack was super well done. Like, a lot of the areas in the game had very fitting music playing, and music I could see myself searching up on YouTube and going to listen to for years to come, especially the boss battle music. Like I said, everything about those was awesome. But yeah, some of the neutral areas, even music that played during cutscenes or intense moments, and even the little jukebox you have at the hideaway that you could switch up the songs. A lot of those songs are great too, just to listen to. I found myself changing the jukebox quite a few times through my playthrough just to fit like the emotion currently happening throughout the main line or main storyline. But yeah, great soundtrack and great sound design in general. All right, fellas, now time for the big whopper, the story. A lot of mixed opinions on the story online, but I will give you mine. I think it was awesome. I loved it. I love the characters in the story. I love the arcs that they go through, the voice acting for all the characters. The writing, I think, is awesome. Now, when you say the writing for a game is awesome, there's always some scenes that could do better or some side quests or whatever else. But generally speaking, the mainline story from start to finish, I think is very well written and very well done. I'm happy with the beginning, the middle, and the end. And this is something that's really important to me. My middle brother is a writer. He's written comics for Marvel and DC, and every time we hang out, he's just going off about writing, and like it's just drilled in my brain at this point. So it's something that I pay really close attention to when I play the game. And I don't mean that in a sense that like, oh, I know better than you, your brother isn't a writer, or you aren't a writer. Like, obviously, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but for me, I think the story is incredible. Yeah, you know, a lot of parts do remind me of Game of Thrones, or, you know, insert like many different pop culture things that were clearly inspired in the game. But regardless of those facts, I loved it. I thought it was awesome. It made me tear up quite a few times. I really enjoyed the ending. Don't want to spoil anything. There was something at the very end I was like, eh, but overall, I thought it was awesome, and I really enjoyed it. And it's one of the better stories in Final Fantasy for me because it wasn't super convoluted. It knew what it was trying to say, and for me, it was easy to follow for the most part. I loved it. Okay, now we're gonna move on to things that I think could have been improved or whatever. The side quests. So the first side quest, you deliver some food to people at a restaurant. The second side quest, you deliver some wood to a guy that the wood's 5 feet away from. And then the next few side quests are all very similar to that. Most of them in the game are fetch quests, and I don't know, a lot of them just feel like MMO quests where it's just like, whatever, I don't care, you do it just to do it. And on top of that, there are no good rewards either. Like, it doesn't matter what you do, in most of the side quests, you don't get a good reward. It's just like some resource you already have an insane abundance of and will never need unless it's in like New Game Plus, or just another random material that you just don't need. And not much money either, or experience. Like they're just so throwaway, most of them. Now, granted, I didn't play most of the side quests. I did the first like 10, and then at that point I was like, all right, I'm done. I don't even want to bother with them anymore. I don't even want to give them a try, because if your first 10 are just like monotonous and boring and uninteresting, then I'm definitely not gonna trust your next like 40, okay? I'm so interested in the main story that shit can just take the back seat. And if I play through the game again, maybe I'll try them out. But, now this is a minor spoiler alert warning. Near the end of the game, well, it's like right before you do the last mission, make sure you do all the quests in the current main quest hub, because they are super important and they're super good as well. They have to do with like most of the main characters and the main side characters. So if you don't do them, you actually miss out on a lot of the story, and good old Square doesn't even let the player know. They don't like say important side quest or anything. They give no warning. I guess they prayed that most players did them, because they are important, trust me, and they're great too. As someone that's not usually a fan of side quests, so I'm a bit biased on this topic, honestly. The last few are great in the main quest hub, so make sure you do them if you want the full experience. And by the way, disclaimer, I'm aware of what the side quests are trying to do in this game for the most part. They are put in to give you an idea of what the life of a normal person is like in this decaying world. And I get that. And I get that it's supposed to do a lot of world building and just give you a sense of what everyone's going through. But at the same time, I think it wasn't done very well. Like, I understand what they're trying to do, but the quests are so boring and the characters attached to the side quests are so boring that I don't even want anything to do with them. And like, yeah, I'm sure there are some great ones out there that you're like, Mark, you said you didn't even do the side quest. I know, there's probably some good ones mixed in between the game, but from what I played, they were pretty lackluster to the point that I didn't even want to give the rest of them a chance. But I'm sure there are some good ones in there. All right, here's something I genuinely care about. So, the RPG elements, and as well as the gearing system in the game. To start off, you start this game with a bunch of different amulets, okay? So these amulets make your characters super OP. You have them at level 1. And what they do is one makes you auto dodge every single attack, one makes you auto heal when you're low health, one makes it so you can mash the square button to do every combo in the game and let the game play itself. Another one lets your dog play optimally. So I get why those are there. They're there as an accessibility option for players that don't want any struggle with the story. 2 problems with that, or 3 maybe. So 1, why not just put that in story mode? If you picked action mode, you obviously aren't looking for accessibility options, which, by the way, those are added in the game as accessibility tools, and there isn't even an accessibility menu in the game. If you're gonna do something like that, make an entire menu. Actually fix things that people need fixing. Like, how about the insane motion blur? Like, there are some things that people that need those options are desperate for, but instead they just added these rings. Here's another problem with those amulets or those rings, whatever. It ruins the gearing in the game for me. When I was playing through the game and I got like an upgrade, let's say, like +5 attack amulet, who cares? In my inventory, I already have one that makes me god tier. Like, every single upgrade in the entire game, I felt nothing for, because it's like, okay, let's take Diablo 4. It's a new game. Everyone's aware of it at the moment. Let's say you start the game, and this is the accessibility tool, and your inventory is full of legendaries that are best rolled, best in slot gear. You can't find anything better. And that's for the players that don't want to grind or whatever else. That makes it so the entire game, the whole point to that game, is looting and finding better gear and upgrading over and over and over. That's where I have the problem. It makes every other item in the game feel so underwhelming that it ruins the whole experience of gearing your character. And also, one last thing on items and itemization that I cannot forget is the costume design. Oh my god, and the weapon design too. Clive's weapons that you get throughout the course of the game, and all the characters' actual costume design, like Jill and Clive are two examples, they are so well done. I absolutely love them, and give me more of that. Whatever art team was on this game, bring them back, because they did a god tier job. So the RPG mechanics. This wasn't a huge deal for me, but I've seen a lot of talk about it online, and it did affect my playthrough somewhat. But the gameplay is really fun, and the abilities you get through the game are also really fun. It's really fun to mix and match them and experiment and do all the crazy stuff you could do with the Devil May Cry style gameplay that they went with. But I think where the issue is that there isn't a ton of freedom, especially in customizing your own build that feels like it suits you. And I think what I would do differently if it was me is I would have added the elemental powers back to the game. So in Final Fantasy 16, if you master an ability, it lets you put it on a different icons tree. So you could put the Phoenix's move on a different element tree. What I think would have been really cool is if they changed the element of that move. So there is a fire move where you charge across the screen from, spoiler alert, Ifrit. Okay, so Ifrit's move is he charges across the screen and like a cannonball. So it would have been cool that if you changed it to like an ice tree, that it was an ice move instead and it froze enemies in your path. If you made it a wind move or put it on the wind tree, then it would blow everyone out of your way as you went by. Stuff like that would have went a long way, but I understand that that's a lot more extra dev time and yada yada yada, but I do hear the cries of pain about the RPG mechanics because they're sort of not super existent. And that really ties in with the gear conversation as well. It's like the gearing doesn't get too crazy. Like it's not like you're getting, when you pick up a amulet that buffs one of your skills, it doesn't like change it at all. It's just like 8% more damage to this skill. And that's like 90% of the items in the entire game. And that's fine and dandy, whatever. But I do think it is a blemish on an otherwise really, really, really good game. All right, guys, the moment you've all been waiting for. The actual major issue with this game and the biggest problem by a landslide is the two brain sellers and the game journalists on social media slandering this game. Oh, it's not like the old Final Fantasies. Oh, it's a PS5 exclusive. Shut your dumb asses up and let people enjoy this not only amazing game, but get ready to choke on these words, amazing Final Fantasy game.